We saw Justin Herbert looking visibly upset, correcting his teammates on Sunday against the Packers, and it's another step in his continued development of leadership, and it feels like Justin Herbert is finally taking over this football team.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers together now for 8 seasons, but this is our 6th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you guys, as always, for making us your first listen today, and to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Today we got to talk about Justin Herbert snapping and then taking control of that offense. And then we got to talk about, would the Chargers be better off with Zay Flowers over Quentin Johnston? And could this possibly be the last time we see Joey Bosa play for the Chargers this season?
There's a lot of tough buy or sells on this show, I'll tell you that. And also just, did the Chargers show us on Monday that Brandon Staley is not going to get fired this season? I think that has to get talked about too. But today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. David, one of the things that seemed to be a common sentiment around Chargers Twitter and just Chargers social media in general was seeing Justin Herbert get mad and people saying, I want more of that, right? And it was nice. A very visceral reaction after a delay of game penalty late in that game when the crunch time was happening, right? Justin Herbert kind of snapped a little bit, and I think this is the buy or sell here today as we buy or sell the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. We need to see more mad Justin Herbert.
I'm buying it, and it kind of it brings me back to when Phillip Rivers had full control over the Chargers offense, and when he was getting on his offensive lineman for messing up and making a mistake. And this was something that happened in a similar nature where they had a delay of game penalty because they didn't get the ball to Justin Herbert when he wanted, and he was visibly upset about it. And he let his offensive lineman know. He let everybody know, and I think that's just another sign of Justin Herbert taking control of the offense and taking control of this football team. This is from Timo Risk from PFF. He said after that, he scrambled for 11 yards and then threw 2 lasers for touchdowns. The second one was actually caught. So Justin Herbert was very, very angry, and then he turned into Super Herbo and did what Justin Herbert does, which, of course, that was in lieu to the highest PFF grade of the week by a lot, 93.2 PFF grade for Justin Herbert, who was truly phenomenal, and PFF agreed.
Yeah, when it shows how many people are telling on themselves, in their reactions and overreactions on this buy or sell day on, social media, on all big sporting platforms, anyone you see blaming Justin Herbert or just talking about, hey, Justin Herbert can't get it done again, shows how much they didn't watch. Because if there was anyone who put his team in the position to win more than enough times on Sunday, it was Justin Herbert. And the Chargers, if they just caught all the balls that Justin Herbert threw their way, would have blown the Packers out on this one, just about. It would have been a double-digit win for them. So how do you make him mad, Herbert, every game? I say give him a whole list of Emmanuel Acho tweets and make him read those before every game. I know that would get me fired up. And it's also kind of ironic, too, right? Because it's like you're kind of hoping for bad things to happen so you can see Justin Herbert get out there and, slam the ball and, do all of those things and show that kind of leadership. But it is what Phillip Rivers, what we always loved him for, right?
It's just that passion, man. You just don't see it a lot from Justin.
You saw how much he cared. Yeah. And exactly. Justin, it's like, we've always told you, hey, you can tell in certain kind of flashes how competitive this dude is. Yeah. There was a run he had last week where there was a stare down afterwards. I think Steven Hackman put that out, right? Just look back like, oh, you want to try to tackle me, bro? Like, come on. Yeah. One of those kind of things. And it's nice to see, but I do think you did see Justin Herbert take another level of control on this offense last week, because when things weren't working out offensively, when his receivers were dropping, dimes put right in their chest, he's like, you know what, I'm just going to run for it, right? Yeah. I'm going to be decisive. I'm going to go pick up first downs with my legs. And it was a totally different version. There was a version of Justin Herbert that was decisive and would start to run, and he would slide after about 3 yards or even behind the line of scrimmage sometimes because he was so I think trained last year not to put the ribs in any danger. This year, not to put that left middle finger in any danger.
Understandably.
Rightfully so. Exactly. But at the same time, though, you're not seeing that. This has put the team even more on my back, Justin Herbert. I'm going to scramble. It's Mahomes-esque, right? Because that's what Mahomes does. When the things aren't there, how he always ends up frustrating other teams is he finds a way to pick it up with his legs, right? And we've seen that so many times.
And he can do it. He had 73 rushing yards in this game. And, we saw it even in the last game when he was stiff-arming defenders and, getting them out of his way. Like, a lot of people forget. I saw Justin Herbert up close in person. 6'6", 250. He has every bit of it. He has every bit of it. He's incredibly athletic. He is a beast. And so whenever he runs the football, he's deceptively athletic. I think to the defense, they don't really expect him to be able to take off like that and be able to create those extra yards, but he can do it. And also, I think it's one of the best signs of Justin Herbert finally feeling a lot closer to himself health-wise.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just think that for this team and for the fan base, right, like that's what people want to see. People like that about the Joe Burrows and the Patrick Mahomes, how they wear their heart on their sleeve sometimes.
Absolutely.
And I've always contended that, Justin Herbert always being the same guy is good. Always being even-keeled is good. Except for I saw him go Super Saiyan after he got mad and make some incredible throws. The first one that Timo Riss was talking about was to Stone Smart, between three dudes, and it actually still should have been a touchdown. The tight window he fitted to Keenan Allen was insane. But Justin Herbert
was beautiful.
After, doubted by a bunch, and we said it feels like it happens every year. People start doubting him. He gets hurt, and then he comes out, and he looks like an MVP. He's been the best quarterback in the league the last couple of weeks, and that's it. That's all it is, and he's not. He doesn't have a lot of weapons at his disposal. Down two of his top three receivers and his top tight end.
Yeah, he's playing with Erickson and Bynum on Sunday with Simi Fehoko as his
Quentin
three
Johnston.
of his
and
five
we'll have time
receivers.
to get to him, right? Quentin Johnston will be later. But let's get to this buy or sell here, David, because the Chargers, as we see it right now, recording this Monday night, did not fire Brandon Staley. That's something you were in favor of last night. But this is the buy or sell. The Chargers showed Monday that they won't fire Brandon Staley for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I have to buy it, unfortunately, because, and we should have never, expected them to really fire him because they don't fire head coaches in the middle of the season. Sure. They haven't done it since.
It was an emotional, show last night, of course.
It was, for sure, but it's just the culmination of all of the frustration that we've experienced over the course of the last 3 seasons, just with and especially, I think, just heightened so much this season because your expectations were so sky high, and they have not even come close to sniffing them this season, and it's been a huge underwhelming season for them. They haven't been able to beat good teams. They're 1-4 against teams that have a plus 500 record, and also have losses to the Titans and, of course, the Packers. Their latest loss with teams
those are the
under
ones that
500.
are going to kill them. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you have to take care of business. You have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat and be able to at least steal 1 or 2 from the really good teams in the league. But the Chargers have not been able to do that at all. They only got some decent wins against the Jets and Bears. And honestly, looking back on it in retrospect, those wins are honestly kind of hollow at this moment in time.
Yeah, those are bad wins or bad teams that they beat, and we know they can beat bad teams. But the problem is they haven't been able to consistently beat the bad teams enough to keep them in the playoff hunt while also not being able to beat the good teams. But I think the sentiment that rubs me the wrong way, and I would buy this too. Maybe I don't think it's going to happen. But it's hard for me to buy it because I'll tell you this: if the Chargers go get smoked 42-17 against the Ravens on Sunday, and they've suffered that national kind of embarrassment to fall to 4-7, does that do it? I don't know. But you have guys, Ian Rappaport, a very respected reporter, one of the top newsbreakers in the NFL, kind of shilling for this team and for Brandon Staley right now. I know they have the same agent, right? But his quotes about it being a fine defense and Brandon Staley being one of the best defensive coaches in the league, and also just saying, hey, reporters, it's not your job to report to the fan base or ask questions for the fan base. It just seemed way off base and out of touch. I know they have the same agent still. You're supposed to be unbiased.
Who pays your paychecks, buddy? The fans. What are you thinking?
Well, who else would it be for, right? What else are the reporters there for other than to serve the fan base of this, gigantic, gargantuan league? That is what it's for, right?
Absolutely.
Is a national embarrassment enough? Brandon Staley's out here saying he still thinks they're in the mix for the playoffs, and that's what's so frustrating, right? Is the AFC does feel so wide open, and you still don't feel like the Chargers have a chance. And maybe it would have felt different if a ball goes a little bit differently on Sunday and Quentin Johnston potentially changes his season with the game-winning touchdown. We're going to talk about something that's hard to talk about. Would the Chargers be better with Zay Flowers, who they're going to see this weekend, or Quentin Johnston? And should they feed Quentin Johnston anyways? Coming up right after this. First, though, I do need to tell you guys about Gametime, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful, and Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over tickets and get hyped for the fun you're going to have. Right now, guys, there are still plenty of tickets available for Sunday Night Football. I know, it's tough with the Chargers doing what they're doing, but you can save some money right now with Gametime. You can know you're getting the best price, and just go on there, see the view from the seats you could have in that game, and think about Sunday Night Football under the bright lights. It should still be a lot of fun, and it is a great experience, especially SoFi Stadium is crazy. I mean, it's a nuts place if you haven't gone. But with zone deals, you can also pick a section, and Gametime picks the seats, and you can get an average discount of 18% savings. They will always save you money, and since you listen to this show, you can save even more, because if you download the Gametime app and create an account, you can use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I also need to tell you guys that this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Do you ever feel like your brain is getting in its own way? And also, do you ever feel like the holiday season is a little bit tougher for you? I know that I do. I mean, going and seeing family that I haven't seen in a long time is something that I struggle with, especially having those conversations, even just simple things like trying to catch up in my life and having a bunch of people ask me what's going on and everything right now, especially with the baby. I've felt it a lot. And one thing that has helped me, especially in this season, is therapy. And if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, please give BetterHelp a try, because you won't regret it. I mean, with therapy, the one thing it helps you do outside of just being able to get in contact with someone when you need to, you don't have to have a set schedule. You don't have to drive somewhere, right? You can get it right in your own home, and you can find the right fit for you as far as the doctors go. But the other thing is them giving you the tools to deal with your things on a day-to-day life when they're not there, right? And that's what the most important thing is to me is, hey, when I do go up and visit my family for Thanksgiving and Christmas, I will have the tools to realize and kind of put things into context. Hey, this is a good thing, right? And I'm glad I'm getting to see these people, and I love these people. Therapy helps me with all of that. So visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today, and you can get 10% off your first month. You can make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. Dave, let's continue getting into this buy or sell here, because we have a lot of good ones still, including a tough one, David, because I know a lot of Chargers fans have lamented the pick of Quentin Johnston, and that has never reached a more fever pitch than it has after the last game, dropping potentially the game-winning touchdown, dropping a chance to keep that game alive, and he took accountability for it. But now they get to play the guy that went right after. The Chargers go up against Zay Flowers, who was our guy in the draft, right? And now we've kind of seen these guys with a sample size of 10 and 11 games. The Chargers would be better if they drafted Zay Flowers. Buy or sell?
I mean, it's a buy for me. I mean, it's just the type of dynamic player that I wanted, that you wanted, that we both wanted in this offense. A guy that has true, game-breaking speed, agility, quickness, and then you just look at the numbers, and then you're even more reminded of that fact. 53 catches, 588 yards, a touchdown. But here's the big kicker here. 5 catches of 25-plus yards already this season for Zay Flowers. You know how many catches Quentin Johnston has? One of over 20-plus. That's it. That is
he has
all
one 20-yard catch.
One 20-yard catch that he has produced all season long. So, unfortunately, these two players were both very dynamic yards after catch receivers in college football, but so far, only one of those has translated to the NFL.
Yeah, I'd buy it. I mean, at least for right now. It's the guy that we wanted, of course, right? And I mean, I was part of the people saying, hey, this guy looked really good at training camp, and I know it's incredibly frustrating to hear Brandon Staley talk about, Quentin Johnston making catches in training camp, where he had a couple of really bad practices too, where the drops were obviously an issue. I don't think Quentin Johnston's going to drop the ball as much as we've seen, especially over the last couple of weeks. I do think it's going to get somewhat better. But if you're talking about immediate impact players, how could you argue with it, right? Because you can talk about Quentin Johnston and what he will be, right, which is still a different conversation, and we don't know what that finished product is going to look like yet, or when he gets close to it, right? What we do know is that Zay Flowers was able to come in and make an immediate impact this year. He's a better route runner, creates more separation already, and he's also an elite player with the ball in his hands, which is what Quentin Johnston is. It feels like the Chargers thought, okay, hey, we know what we get in Quentin Johnston, but we could also get a jump ball guy. We could also just get a straight-up vertical, over-the-catch type of receiver, which just that never is what Quentin Johnston was. Like, if you watch the tape, that's not what he is, right? He's a short, catching slants, catching easy routes, getting the ball in his hands, not making him do too much, and then let him do his work after the catch.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers is giving you more than that, right? Like, Zay Flowers is ready to play now. Quentin Johnston is a project, and maybe that felt okay when you had Josh Palmer and Mike Williams, and he wasn't expected to have as big of a role. But if you're talking about guys that could help you this season with a team who has a championship, aspirational type of window right now, Zay Flowers is the bigger immediate impact. What those two players will end up being, who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Zay Flowers has a huge head start on it. So
that's right.
This is going to sound crazy, but David, I think the Chargers still need to continue to feed Quentin Johnston, even given his struggles. So that's the buy or sell today. The Chargers need to continue to feed Quentin Johnston even after the brutal drop we saw last week.
Yeah, it's 100% buy. I mean, you have to. I mean, you don't really have many other options. Like I mentioned, you had Terrell Bynum and you had Erickson and you had Simi Fehoko playing wide receiver for you behind Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston. And you don't know when you're going to get Josh Palmer back. So Quentin Johnston is going to be featured. He is going to get a ton of targets. And, for him, Quentin Johnston, like you said, he did take accountability for the drops. But the only thing that Q can do is get back out there, get, there before practice, catch a ton of passes off of the jugs machine, catch a ton of balls over his shoulder, practice those, be able to, get those hands sharp and put in the extra work like Josh Palmer did with Justin Herbert to create that chemistry, to create that bond, and to be able to shore up your hands. And so with Q, I think the one thing to remember for everybody out there is, the progression is rarely linear. Okay. Your progression from, the beginning of your career to the end, you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. Not everybody translates to the NFL immediately. That progress is going to take time for certain players. I know it's frustrating because he's a first round pick and you want that immediate production now. I understand it, but he is under contract for 5 seasons, 4 years and a 5th year option. So there's a lot of time. And you got to kind of be a little bit patient with Q so, he can go out there and get better.
And to his credit, man, after the game, he took responsibility for it. I mean, I don't know what else you do there. Like, I mean, I guess as opposed to
not talking to the media, right?
Maybe the ball's a little overthrown or something. I don't know what he could have said, right? But he said lack of concentration was part of it, right? There are videos going around where it does look like he kind of slowed up on the route as well. Didn't think the ball was going to come to him. It still was a perfect throw.
It was.
I think, I mean, they have to continue to feature him because who else do they have, first of all, like you talked about, right? But I do think that also he can bring something to the table offensively when used correctly, and we saw that, right? You have the little option pass I talked about yesterday where, Justin Herbert kind of sprint out to the right, quickly get it off to Quentin Johnston once you make that second-level defender kind of commit to you as the ball carrier, right? And what did he do? Immediately got upfield and had a nice gain. So keep getting creative in the way you use him. But like at this point in the season at 4-6, wear this dude out with targets if you have to, right? And kind of it's trial by fire at this point, and we'll know a lot more by the end of the season. Like, hey, there's a chance it doesn't work out, right? We talk about his progression and stuff like that. Is this the time to call it? Absolutely not, right? But that is a possibility. Like he has a lot of places he has to improve, and I think there's still the chance the Chargers get a good offensive player, right, with Quentin Johnston. We have to see it, though. And I do think if there was one thing that I appreciated from Brandon Staley in his press conference, right, defending his young receiver, right, didn't hang him out to dry and brought it back. He did hang out Austin Eckler to dry, but talking about the red zone fumble and, some other guys.
Sure did.
But with Quentin Johnston, I think he handled it the right way. I think that's how you have to do it as a head coach, right, and take the blame off of a kid who probably feels like the whole world's crashing down on him right now. I know people also got mad that I said I felt bad for him. They're humans, right? And I know everyone's like, oh, you making millions of dollars, whatever. Whatever, you know what I mean? Like, who cares?
Yeah,
all these guys.
I mean, you really think that they don't feel it? Like, they don't feel it when they mess up, when they don't make the play? You don't feel like they have
the
all
money
that
doesn't
weight?
Make it any easier to sleep?
No, of course they do. Of course they do.
And I get it. The fans are reacting emotionally after an emotional game, and we had an emotional
as
show
did we
yesterday.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. I don't blame people for that. But yeah, did I say I felt bad for him? Yeah, I do. That sucks. Everyone knows, no matter what they say, hey, Was he the whole reason they lost? No. Could he have won them the game right there?
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's a hard pill for a rookie to swallow. But
it is.
Another hard pill to swallow for us was watching Joey Bosa get off to the sideline limping, crawling off to the sideline, getting carted off. Not as bad as maybe originally we thought it was, but Brandon Staley says he's likely headed to IR. Will this be the last time we see him? Will we see him this season? Will we see him in Chargers Bolts ever again? We're going to talk about that, David, coming up right after this. I do need to tell you guys, though, to score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That means you can go pick the biggest favorite that week, right? 14-point favorite, whatever it is. As long as that team wins, you win. You're in the money. That's $150 if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much more. I always like the anytime touchdown scores, but this might surprise people. The Chargers are opening up as only 4-point underdogs next week against the Ravens, or this week, right? Sunday Night Football. FanDuel thinks it's going to be close, right? So maybe it will be a little closer than we think it is right now, but I'm telling you one thing, I would be hammering the Ravens with that number right now, and we'll see what happens on Sunday. But you guys can get in on all the NFL action visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. David, I want to continue this buy or sell by talking about Joey Bosa and also talking about Drew Tranquill, who made some plays on Monday Night Football that has the Chargers fans in their feelings. Obviously, watching another, a former Chargers player go on doing good things. But I do want to tell everyone about something really cool that's going on with Locked On right now, because they have launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sport stories around the NFL and the rest of the sports leagues with the way that only the Locked On local experts can do. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. David, we all saw what happened to Joey Bosa, and he is a very divisive figure in Chargers fan base, right? And the social media, especially, the blow up last season after he had returned and had that season end the way that it did in the Jaguars game. And this season, a little banged up early in the year, came back. I thought has been playing actually pretty well, right? But yeah, we see him leave the last game. He gets carted to the locker room. Now we know it's a foot sprain for him, but Brandon Staley says he's likely headed to IR. So we'll start here. Joey Bosa will play again this season, buy or sell?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really, really tough one. And honestly,
there would be 3 games left. That's an important part of this, right?
Yeah.
He would have to miss the next 4 games no matter what. And there's 7 games left, so it would be coming back for the final 3.
And a part of me feels like, if the Chargers are completely eliminated and out of it, like they probably won't bring him back. And I've always been a guy that if you're healthy, you should be out there and you should play. But, we have to factor that into the equation. But I think we bring it into, what Joey Bosa has done so far this year. He's been a darn good football player for the Chargers. I mean, yeah, given the blow-ups and everything that happened last year, but this year he's been good. He had a 70.7 run defense grade and 80.3 pass rush grade. Like, he's been really solid. 20 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, 24 pressures generated. Joey Bosa has been great for the Chargers. He's been, back to, his kind of, close to dominant self. But I think I'm going to sell it. Yeah, I don't think that we're going to see Joey Bosa back this season. And unfortunately, with the contract situation, it might be the last time we see him in lightning bolts.
Also, buy or sell then. Buy or sell that then. Are you selling the fact that he will play for the Chargers again?
Yeah, I'm going to buy it. Yeah, I think this is the end. Yeah, I think this is the end for the Chargers and Joey Bosa.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I think when people think about this, they don't really grasp the full context of the contract, because the thing about Joey Bosa is he's not only under contract through 2024, he's under contract through 2025, right? So that's $22 million in dead cap next year, and also an additional like $7 million in dead cap in 2025. We will see what the combination of Thule and Khalil Mack looks like for the rest of the season. Obviously, Khalil Mack's older, but has played in every game since he's been a Charger.
Yeah, he's been playing out of his mind this year too.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, it's 6 sacks in one game, obviously, right? Of course, but like, he's been pretty consistently one of their best defensive players, which is you're asking him to do. I mean, you're paying both guys to be, game-wrecking type of players.
Yeah.
Contract-wise, it's easier to get out of Khalil Max next year. They would save more money next year when they have more money to lose to get under the cap. It's going to be interesting. I think I would sell that he plays this season because I don't think the Chargers are going to be in it with 3 games left, and I don't know what the point of it would be, trying to get him as healthy as possible.
Right.
And I mean, this is a dude who's 28 years old, so there's still potentially good seasons ahead of him, but it's just like at this point, 5 different seasons where he's missing at least 4 games.
Yeah, but I don't think he's your typical 28-year-old just with all the injuries.
He's not. No, and we'll see, how he comes back from this. But I think it being a sprain as opposed to something that's going to require surgery, especially feet that he's already had to, worked on, it is good news, and it keeps his likelihood of being able to be, most of his healthy self to start 2024 if the Chargers go in that direction. But they'd have to eat a huge cap the next couple of years. We'll see who the coach is. We'll see who the front office guys
that's
are
a fair
at that point too. Yeah. Let's get to this buy or sell. A lot of people saw that Drew Tranquill was making some plays for the Chiefs on Sunday or on Monday Night Football against the Eagles in a game that the Chiefs ended up losing, which is always fun to see. Chiefs haven't scored in 3 straight second halves. I mean, they're way worse against the Chargers in the second half, too. Something going on there, but they still only 3 losses on the season. But Drew Tranquill definitely had Chargers fans feeling nostalgic on Monday night, and this is the buy or sell here today, David. The Chargers should have kept Drew Tranquill.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it, and it's because of the contract value disparity between the 2 players. I think when you look at their stats, they're pretty.
Talk about which 2 players you're talking about, right?
Yeah, so we're talking about Eric Kendricks. Yes,
okay.
Instead of Eric Kendricks and Drew Tranquill, which is pretty much what the decision was for the Chargers in the offseason. It's like, they decided to move on from Drew Tranquill, and they, immediately pretty much signed, Eric Kendricks to the 2-year contract. So Eric Kendricks' 2-year contract is 2 years, $13.25 million, and Drew Tranquill's contract is 1 year, $3 million. Drew Tranquill's stats: 49 tackles, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 25 stops, and against the pass, 25 receptions on 32 targets. Eric Kendricks, it's been 56 tackles, 17 stops, but against the pass, it's 30 receptions on 36 targets for 347 yards allowed. So, I mean, just with those stats, comparably against the run, not so much comparably against the pass, and the contract disparity, huge disparity between these 2 players. And given the fact that Drew Tranquill is a younger football player, I definitely would have rathered the Chargers kept Drew Tranquill.
Yeah, and all I said was should have kept him, right? Didn't mean instead of Eric Kendricks, but that's basically what it is, like you're saying. Yeah. This is the thing that you're not mentioning there, though. Drew Tranquill is still terrible against the run, and the Chargers' run defense has been way better without him, right? We saw what Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquill looked like as far as run defense goes, and there haven't been a lot of other changes in that front 7, right? The Chargers have been much better. He's been bad defending the run, has been really covered up by a lot of really, really good, solid defenders that they have there. He's part of a much bigger unit, and the thing is, I think that Deion Henley, if they wanted to go that direction, could bring some of the things that Drew Tranquill brings in coverage, whereas Eric Kendricks has been a godsend for the Chargers in run defense. Maybe he isn't what he used to be on the perimeter as far as getting sideline to sideline, but that man has dramatically improved the Chargers' run defense, and they've been great outside of 1 game this season. So I'm selling it. I think Drew Tranquill is a good player. I think if the Chargers lose, if it was Drew Tranquill or Kenneth Murray, I think the best combo is probably Eric Kendricks and Drew Tranquill next to each
that's probably
other,
true.
Right?
Yeah,
probably not an option for them.
Yeah.
But Kazir White playing well to me with the Cardinals too. The Chargers have let go of guys having career years at that position, but Drew Tranquill still has the same issues, and the Chargers' run defense is 1,000 times better without him. I don't think the Chargers ever thought about bringing Drew Tranquill back if we're going based on what Daniel Popper told us, right? But I think it's a little bit of selective kind of missing of Drew Tranquill. I think in coverage he's been better than both of the Chargers linebackers. Yeah. But as a run defender, he's much worse. As a blitzer, he's much better. Yeah. So I get it, but Eric Kendricks has helped the Chargers run defense. I like Drew Tranquill a lot, but I still think that you'd probably still have a lot of the same run defense issues this year had they brought him back to be that starter next to Kenneth Murray. And maybe Kenneth Murray is a bigger problem. Conversation for another day. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Programming note, we will not have a show tomorrow because me and David are going to be celebrating Thanksgiving with our families And that's the best day that it works this week, so we can still bring you crossover Thursday and bring you our keys for success for the Ravens game on Friday. So we will be back with you guys with crossover Thursday in a couple days. To make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. You can also find the show every day on our social media. You can find us on Twitter at Locked On LAC, on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. If you watch on YouTube, make sure to go subscribe to the podcast anyways. If you listen to the podcast, check us out on YouTube one of these days. We appreciate all of you guys giving us a gigantic show for our post-game show after a really, really tough loss. We appreciate the Bolt fam. So thank you guys. We will make sure we get a fan mail show for you guys to show our appreciation soon. But we will be talking to you guys on crossover Thursday, so make sure you guys are back here for that. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.